Hello and welcome to the big picture. Tens of thousands of refugees have been pouring into various countries in Europe from various countries of West Asia, but mainly from Syria, Turkey, Iraq, Afghanistan, Eritrea, among others. This trickle initially has turned into a torrent as people in these war-torn and troubled countries are escaping death and destruction to find a place to reconstruct their lives. Being seen as one of the biggest human tragedies of the decade, this has assumed an international dimension as pressure is building up on Europe, including United Kingdom as well as United States of America, to accommodate this exodus of people. Germany and Sweden are the most preferred destinations for these helpless refugees. However, Germany, after having welcomed them for the last few weeks, have now decided to reintroduce border controls to stop the flow temporarily as its cities are now unable to cope with it. The European Union is holding a meeting today to discuss how the refugees can be distributed, even as some countries like Hungary and some of the East European countries are showing unwillingness to accommodate these refugees. Why and how did this refugee crisis balloon into such an international crisis? What is to be done to, one, accommodate these refugees, and secondly, whether any measures can be taken to stop these from becoming refugees? We will discuss all this today with Vivek, Katju, former ambassador, Professor A.K. Pasha, Director Gulf Studies Program, JNU, Waiel Awwad, Senior West Asian Journalist, Professor Gulshan Sachdeva, Center for European Studies at the JNU. Welcome to all of you. Mr. Katju, you have just come back from Turkey, I'm told, that, and you must have seen and heard what is happening. I mean, how big are the dimensions of this crisis?
I think we've got to put this situation in perspective.
Yes.
Refugees from, as you correctly said, the war-torn countries in the region are not going only to Europe. They are also going to other countries. For example, Syrian refugees are going to Egypt and they are going to their other neighboring states as well. Some of them have gone into Turkey, and I think from Turkey they are trickling down to Greece through various routes. Then there are others in Libya, which is of course far away, North Africa, who are going through the sea route across the Mediterranean. The crisis is fairly substantial, and I don't think it will end anytime soon, because its genesis lies in the destabilization. Ironically, in the destabilization process, the Americans and the Europeans had played a stellar role. It began, if you recollect, in 2003 with the invasion of Iraq. And then with the involvement of the Western powers in what was domestic evolution of situations in North African countries. At that time, if you recollect,
the bombing of Libya.
Yes, it was being hailed as the Arab Spring.
Right.
As if democracy can come overnight to states. Each state has and society has its own situation, and they should be allowed to evolve by themselves. So foreign intervention would lead to war, conflict, refugees. But in addition to refugees, there is also the flow of other migrants. And there is, all this is in a sense...
Who are these other migrants?
They are economic migrants, people who want a better life.
These refugees are also essentially economic migrants, running away.
No, the refugees are, I look at it as part of a long historical process going back to human origins itself, when people migrated out of conflict situations. So that process is now taking place in a world which is fully connected and in the glare of publicity. And in Europe, it is assuming a dimension which is largely because of the press and largely because of the photographs, the photograph of the young Syrian child. All that is blowing up. Otherwise, all our countries have refugee situations, and they don't assume this dimension.
Awwad, we are told that one-third of the people, one-third of the refugees who are going into Europe at least, are from Syria. So Syria seems to be the center point where all these problems have occurred. And you are a Syrian yourself. How do you explain this?
Well, I think as Ambassador said, what you are looking at the TV is the culmination or the results of what are the consequences led to this crisis. It is the occupation, the invasion, and the radicalization.
Sorry, 1 second. This inflow of refugees or outflow of refugees from these countries is not a new one. It didn't happen. It hasn't happened in the last few weeks. It has been going on since the last couple of years at least.
Yes, but since 2011 when the war started in Syria, people start moving out. 2003, you never heard of any Iraqi refugees in Europe. And people used to migrate only for a better living condition, which was happening. But if you look at the border with Turkey, in fact, it has been flourishing of the Syrian influx. The Syrian, as I call them, the Syrian caviar, of the Syrian Solomon, which is going to put their children in Europe to grow and leave the country, while the Taliban outfits is being sold at the border and entering into Syria, which is a clear indication that there is a bigger plan for making this Syria look like it is the most dangerous place on earth, and IS is the most dangerous place to...
Isn't it the most dangerous place on earth now?
It is, as long as you support IS, yes. But it is the most peaceful place on earth to live. But look at what used to be. And you are talking of 300 to 400,000 refugees, Girish, in Europe. We are talking of 6 million Syrians are scattered around the countries, neighboring countries, and all over the world. And we have another 6 million internally displaced, which is, and 500,000 people died. So this is a catastrophe of the 21st century, created by occupation, by invasion, and by foreign intervention. We are paying a hefty price in Syria because of this. The moment you were watching this picture on TV of Aylan dying, my own nephew, who was the only son with 2 sisters of him, with his mother, were on the sea in the other boat. I could feel the pain of parents losing their children and the pain of a father that he's holding his son and he cannot make him survive all these atrocities that he has to take on him to leave the land and go and take the risk of the sea because he had no option. So if we wanted really to talk of refugees, to be human, let us deal with the cause of it first and then let's talk about it.
But you agree with Mr. Ambassador Katju that, this is a problem that doesn't seem to have an end very soon.
No, it can have an end. There is an end. You stop supporting terrorism. You stop supporting mercenaries. You stop wars. Don't create wars. The moment you create war, this is what the consequences they are paying for it. Europe is facing a challenge because it is a poison of their own. They are testing the poison of their own. We have not created this crisis. Nobody wanted to leave his country and home and destroy.
Yeah, Mr. Katju.
No, I was only trying to convey an objective situation. There is this situation. It won't end soon.
It won't end soon. There is this situation, absolutely. And Professor Pasha, one is to look at it, how this problem began, as Awwad was talking about, or even Ambassador Katju was telling us about, how did this problem begin? But now that, the problem, there has been a lot of discussion about how this problem began, how United States invaded Iraq, and because of that, it led to the creation of ISIS and all these things. But now, what is the situation?
Yes,
that is what we
yes,
need to discuss.
You're very keen to know the immediate context.
Exactly, and also the very important context of why all these refugees from these countries are moving to Europe and not to other countries, say in the Gulf.
Yes, the refugees were going earlier from Libya, say, to islands of Italy.
Right.
I mean, quite a few died and some made it to Italy.
According to reports, about 2,500 people have died in the sea.
Yes, but the immediate context is the developments in Turkish foreign policy. And that is the elections which took place last summer, in which the Erdogan's party, AKP party, did not secure a majority. And their policy towards the Arab world, or especially towards Syria, is in shambles. And they have not been able to form a coalition government. There are 2 facts. One is the Turkish officials are openly encouraging these refugees to leave the border of Syria and Turkey, where they were mostly parked for the last 3.5 years or so. And that is because Turkey's decision to fight against IS. And they want to seal virtually the borders so that the reprisals from IS would not cross into Syria, and that leads to a bloodbath of the refugees. So they are encouraging these refugees to go in small boats to the neighboring islands. It's just about a day's journey or half a day's journey.
To get into Europe.
Yes. And from Greece, it's very interesting that they are not going to Bulgaria or to Italy, which is the next destination, and from there to Germany, which is across the border. But it is very interesting because you have another agenda in the Balkans, that is Macedonia and Bulgaria. They have not supported the American sanctions on Ukraine against Russia. That is, the internal politics also is there. But more importantly about Turkey is the second dimension. NATO countries come into the picture. There is a decisive shift in the policy of Britain and France as far as launching attacks against IS is concerned. Earlier, they were attacking in Iraq, the IS positions. Now, the NATO countries are directly attacking positions in Syria. And
In
the
fact,
ostensible
today,
reason...
the Prime Minister of Britain today, I was hearing him on talking in the Parliament saying that today we have launched drone attacks on some of the
and
IS
the ostensible
locations.
reason is to weaken IS, but they are actually hitting the Assad forces' targets. Because all these years they tried all their best to weaken and bring about the downfall of Assad. They have not been successful. And actually this has brought in the Russians precisely because of this tactical change in the foreign policy of Turkey, France, Britain and the United States more particularly, which has decided to send weapons to the various forces ranging against Assad. So we must keep this immediate context of the failure of the Turkish policy as far as, and also the Turks want to control the Kurdish border, where the Syrian Kurds are holding a very large portion on the Turkish-Syrian border, so that they don't cooperate with the PKK, which against which they have launched a war over the last couple of years. Many Turkish soldiers have been killed.
There's a lot of wheels within wheels happening with Mr. Katju.
It's not as if the Syrian refugees in Turkey were confined to the border. They were seeping all through this period into the rest of Turkey, especially along the coast, the Aegean and the Mediterranean coast, to try to reach Greece. And this is a very well sort of planned situation, perhaps not with government interference as much as human traffickers, etc., who facilitate this.
Absolutely, human traffickers, the
Smugglers.
Yes,
people.
yes.
I was watching one of the news stories on one of the channels, and $1,500 are being charged per head for these people to go on those rickety boats.
There are reports that one oil-rich country is giving liberally euros also to leave.
So that they don't come to this place.
Yes.
It's their place. Professor Sachdeva, so the crisis as far as Europe is concerned, there seems to be different kinds of views within Europe about how to handle this crisis. Germany and Sweden, initially looked very welcoming of these refugees. Now they are facing problems. Hungary is not willing to do. So how important is this European Union meeting, and what do you think will come out of it?
Well, I think this meeting is very important. One is that, this particular crisis, this has been unfolding for quite some time.
Yes.
I mean, you mentioned that 2,600 people died this year in Mediterranean. But last year also 3,500 people died crossing Mediterranean Sea. Now, today, there are different views, obviously, within Europe. In fact, the European Commission President, Mr. Juncker himself, in his speech 3 days back, said that there is not enough union within this union. At the same time, there is not enough Europe within this union. So there are obviously serious problems. And Europe, after seeing the Euro crisis and the Ukrainian crisis, the elite was not really prepared for another major crisis, but, it's there. Now, but one thing is also quite interesting. During the Euro crisis, it was Germany which was pushing every other country to follow rules of the game within the European Union. And here you have a very clear Dublin procedure. And this was the Germany which actually the first suspended that, procedure, and then they allowed, migrants or refugees they can enter Germany. Because this is what the Hungarian, they were objecting to this. Because under this procedure, basically they have to apply the first where they enter. So it was, they were entering.
Yeah, wherever they enter,
Yes.
they are supposed to get refugee status there. They can't be crossing to different countries and find the
Yes,
best country.
they can be, they put their papers there and then they have to be housed in that particular country. They can ask for asylum in any other country, but first, I mean, they have to, apply for asylum in that particular country. Now, this is the Germany which actually said, abandoned that particular whole procedure, and that was also the region, that was also the reason most of these people, they started moving very quickly towards Germany, and they didn't want to actually stay anywhere in Hungary or in Greece or in Italy, because the Italian and Greek governments, anyway, they were ignoring these procedures earlier. The Hungary, which was trying to really stop that, this is our responsibility, we are trying to follow those procedures. This has happened only for a week or so, and they were not even stopping only in Germany, they were also moving further to Sweden. Because, this is what is happening. So now, the next, what is happening today, there will be like any other European, meetings, there will be a lot of meetings. It will be very difficult for them to come to a conclusion. But yes, I mean,
this meeting is supposed to, divide the refugees who are coming into different countries. Is that the way it needs to happen?
Well, I don't think this is going to be very successful in that manner, because there are some countries which are going to accept, like Germany, Sweden, Italy, France, they will accept. There are countries, like in Central and Eastern European countries, they do not have much history of accepting asylum in the first place. And many of those refugees, they don't want to stay in those countries. Anyway, so they have already said in all the Visegrad countries, they have said, accepting this quota. And this is what the Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban said, that this is the whole mad policy. First, somebody else decide that they want to give asylum, and after that, they will send it to us. I mean, if we are giving asylum, let them decide ourselves whom we want and if they want to stay here. But of course, this is also a price which Europe somehow is paying going along with American policies. But those are different issues. I mean, why these people are becoming refugees, and it's very clear, I think, as many other panelists have already said, it's not going to end in a hurry, because all the hotspots you can see, whether you look at Afghanistan, look at Syria, Libya, and other places, I mean, I don't think there is any immediate you can say any political or military solution there. It will take time.
Which means that at least the European Union needs to get its act together if it has to tackle this inflow of refugees, which it doesn't look like stopping in a hurry.
Yeah.
Some of the East European countries have openly said that we don't want to accept Muslim refugees.
Yes.
They have used this word.
They have used the word.
Some of them have said that we don't have mosques. That is a pretext.
No, there is a very interesting statement there saying that today's refugees, tomorrow's terrorists.
Exactly.
These are the statements which are being made.
And Hungary, for example, an Orthodox Christian Catholic country, they have openly said we don't want any refugees from Syria or this Gulf.
Ambassador Katju, how are they going to handle this? Because this is a problem which they cannot overlook. This is a problem which they cannot, Europe at least. And now today we are told that even America has decided to accept about 10,000 refugees within this calendar year.
I say all that is only symbolic. You see the size and the dimension of the problem. Yeah. The point is that once these problems arise, then there is almost an inevitability of its consequence.
Right.
And the best situation is that you try to muddle along to find solutions, but there are no neat and long-term solutions. And that is what Europe will have to face. The Europeans the EU especially likes everything to be planned out well, laws to be framed. Now, this kind of refugee situation doesn't permit all that.
Exactly.
So they are confronted with a situation where, if you permit me the use of the word, they'll have to do jugaad. And they are not good at jugaad. It's only we people who are excellent at that.
Awwad, what is the solution? You said that it's easier said than done. You said that stop supporting these people, at least the Americans or all those people in all those countries in Europe which had been supporting earlier. But that doesn't seem to be happening soon in a hurry. How, as far as Assad is concerned, the president of Syria is concerned, doesn't this bother him? And what is his responsibility to ensure that this kind of outflow is stemmed?
Well, he's doing his best to stay and to keep the country united. If you wanted to know what is the alternative to Assad in Syria, is IS or Al-Nusra, which is America now trying to take the help of Al-Qaeda to defeat IS, this is hypocrisy. This is just fooling the rest of the world. How can you took Abdul Karim Bilhaj in Libya, who is known as a terrorist of Al-Qaeda, and you got his help to topple Gaddafi. You are using the same formula, which if you are trying to apply in Syria, this is hypocrisy. Who is seriously fighting IS? It is only the Syrian army, the PKK, and the Iraqi army. Why the American and the West are supporting the Iraqi government against IS while they are not supporting in Syria? I mean, there are lots of loopholes questions in their head. You cannot just because the crocodile tears because of a human face, you have to show to the world how human you are. The point I'm trying to say here, open your consulate in Syria if you are bothered about the refugees and recruit from Syria. Don't wait for them till they cross the sea and half of them die. So you wanted to show, because see, there is a game plan. There is a scenario. Syria can produce 5 million barrels a day of oil now. Syria have 2/3 of gas on the Mediterranean Sea on its side, could be in 2020, according to American Geopolitics Journal, could be the number 3rd in the world in producing gas. This is the reason, this is the curse on Syria now. The third, which is more important, is that the Turkey, having an eye on Aleppo, Aleppo is the commercial capital of Syria, which they have dismantled 1,500 factories there, and they have taken it. They wanted to preempt the Syrian government move in there. So the whole crisis and hypes that they're trying to tell to the world that there is now we have to make military intervention. Actually, the military intervention, as Professor Pasha said, is a regime change to topple the regime. It was not meant to to fight IS. Even the Lavrov yesterday said the American knows all the hiding of the IS, but they are not attacking. Why? This is the question is asked by a foreign minister of a superpower country to another superpower country. If you are serious about fighting, let us fight together. Are you fighting separately and the Russian fighting separately to defend Assad? Assad's future should be decided by the Syrian people. Now you are allowing this influx out of the country. And you know, once you go to Europe, you are not allowed to come back to your country, A. And the Arab GCC closed the door. Only if you are Wahhabi, you are able to go there. But if you are a normal citizen, you are not allowed to go there. So they are ready to pay money, build a mosque in Europe, but not to let them go into the Arab country.
Yes.
The Syrian issue is now an international issue. And it is also a regional issue. I do not see the Americans, Europe, the Russians coming to an easy understanding on the future of Syria. I do not see an easy balance being arrived at among the Arab states on Syria. And it's not a one-dimension thing like it was in Libya. Now, given that, it was my conclusion, which I offered to you, that this problem will not end because the source of this problem, in Syria at least, will continue. Similarly, I do not see an end on Libya. The focus at the moment is on Syria.
Right.
And that is the tragic death of that
boy,
which really focused international attention on this.
Right.
Libya is 5 Libya now.
Yes, but and that process is still on. The migrate.
Okay, Professor Pasha. Now, one interesting thing which is being discussed is why are these refugees not being taken by the Gulf countries? Why are the Gulf countries avoiding them? Or is it that the refugees don't want to come to this?
Ideally, these people should have been in the Arab countries,
Exactly.
which are stable, peaceful. Some of them are rich, like Saudi Arabia,
And which can accommodate, and
yes.
it has all the
Yes.
there's all the resources to accommodate these
yes,
people.
as Saudis accommodate about 3.5 million Hajis.
Exactly.
And on the annual pilgrimage. In fact, they are now about 3 million plus Hajis from all over the world.
Right.
And during the Umrah, the lesser pilgrimage, millions come every day for that matter. You know, it's not difficult. But it is the logic of this monarchy, Saudi monarchy, that it is they who initiated this regime change along with the Western countries. And they don't want to be seen as receiving these refugees, just like they are bombing indiscriminately Yemen. Millions have been displaced, but they don't want to take even those Yemenis who are in the Saudi kingdom on the other side, which they occupied during the First World War, they are expelling them. So in that way, the Saudis are not willing to take, and I don't think they will take, although that is the ideal situation, because they fear from all of these people who have lost their homes, their near and dear ones, and they will not keep quiet in Saudi Arabia, just as they don't keep quiet in Jordan also, which has received millions. In fact, to tell you the reality there, Damascus, which had about 8 million people,
Right.
now has double, because all of these internal refugees have now come to the capital, which is seen as secure capital. In fact, the internally displaced people in Syria are about 12 million out of the 23 million, and about 7.5 million are scattered in different parts. So it's a huge catastrophe. And it is escalating day by day because of the ambitions of Turkey, of Qatar, of Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Israel, and then the global powers. Now we are witnessing a situation where the Russians have moved in. They have sent in the Syrian Latakia, Tartus port, and they are pouring men, material, and also the Soviet military advisors, pilots, Navy people. It's a major shift in global politics, and which the Americans did not realize. They thought that under this garb of refugees and international propaganda, they'll escalate slowly, the British and the French initially, and the Turks, to bomb the secure areas of Assad, and then they will crack like what Gaddafi did. He will fall like a ripe fruit, and it will be easier. All the miscalculations of the regional and global powers have gone haywire. And that's how they are.
It has led to
But
this
it is, I think,
humanitarian crisis.
I think it is, given the demographic situations of the Arab Peninsula countries, I think it's unrealistic to expect that they will take in large numbers of refugees.
They
No,
will-
no, it is not very
Awwad,
difficult.
what is your feeling?
My
not very
feeling-
difficult.
No,
my
you
feeling-
think that these people would like to come to these
They
Gulf
won't
countries?
even like
No,
to
you
come
see, I tell
themselves
you
to
why.
the
Because if you go to the GCC, you will be pushed back to your country. They don't want you to be back. They are filling the vacuum with the Chechen, with the Caucasus, with the Afghani, with the Indonesian, because this is the next. What next after Syria? It's Russia. It's Iran. It just is not finishing off. It's just this is a plan, a bigger plan in the region, rather than when Jordan was created, Ambassador, you know, Jordan was created to receive the buffer of the Palestinian, not to allow them to go by the colonialist Britain, not to allow them to go to the GCC country, because that is what discovered the oil. It is a similar fashion. The Gulf country, even Hajj, our Hajj quota was stopped even from 2001. They didn't let the Syrian go. So not to speak of
So now-
refugees.
The Syrian,
Now there is no way in which they would accept any
the
refugee.
Syrian who is not a desert person, will he go and settle in Najd?
That's another
We have
dimensional
workers,
problem.
we have labor there.
But that's
Professor Sachdeva, very quickly. So you think that because UK is saying that we are not the rules for the European Union doesn't apply to us. We will have our own rules. They are also talking of getting in some 20,000 refugees. All these things, will it lead anywhere, or do you think that this crisis could blow up into a major crisis as far as the Europe is concerned?
Well, I mean, I think the numbers are high, but they are not really as alarming as, in fact, are seen in the media or reported in the media. Because Europe has seen these kind of numbers before. If you look at during the Yugoslav war, in 1992, more than 700,000 people actually were refugees in Europe. And that's why they do have a comprehensive plan. Only thing is, in fact, they have capacities also to accommodate.
Right.
And they also need actually many of those migrants or refugees, because particularly Syrians, they are young, they are also educated, so they could be accommodated, particularly in a place like Germany. But only thing, that speed at which they have come, that has created a bit of a problem. So some of the countries will accommodate, I think, many of those refugees. Others will not. I mean, that's what the things would be. And now, in fact, they're also working out the plan. I mean, they also have to have certain kind of camps closer to those, and they also have this, certain funds for Africa and external dimension in which they are talking about. And they, somehow they'll have to come out. It takes time within the European context, but they will have some kind of policy, and they do have capacity. They do have, I think, need for all these refugees, and they would be accommodated. I'm feeling.
I think on that positive note, actually, that these poor refugees who are pouring in there will find some place to rebuild their lives, which is in shambles right now. We'll hope that will happen. Thanks to all my guests. Please keep watching. We'll come back with another issue in the big picture same time tomorrow.